Bunge Towers, it is now ready for occupation, but it is not ready for full occupation. I wanted to use this opportunity to explain how things work, and things that one is in quotes. When the tender was given out, for the quotation was 5 billion. Okay, let me not say that is the exact word, but I'm only giving an example. The quotation was 5 billion, and at the end of the day, the government has paid 9 billion. Don't take the figures for fact, but I'm only giving an example because I don't have the figures on myself. But I'm saying that, for example, it was quoted 5 billion, but at the end of the day, the total amount comes to 9 billion. How does that one come? But before we go there, there was balloting. There was balloting for space. I don't know why they did that. If it were me, you see, Continental House belongs to Parliament. It is just very easy to say that take the Continental House, give it to senators. It becomes part of the Senate. Senators have their offices there. Senators nominated, senators representing counties, all of them should have had their offices in Continental House. And then Bunge Tower should have been given to MNS, members of the National Assembly. Just simple as that. But then, here is everybody wanted an office in Bunge Towers, so they balloted. Some people have offices in the Continental House. Others have got at KICC. Now, if you are lucky, if you are an MP and you are lucky that and you have an office in Continental, you move into Bunge Towers. And then an MP who is unlucky, who has offices in KICC. You see, KICC does not belong to the Parliament. So if you are from Continental and you are lucky, you go to Bunge Towers. And a person from KICC who was not lucky because of the balloting, he takes your office in Continental. Why didn't they just say that if you have an office in Continental, you are not qualified for balloting, so that those who are in KICC just go straight? Because there is a lot of expenses. You get out of Continental, you go to Bunge. For a person to move from KICC to Continental, there has to be some renovation to suit your taste. And then you are there temporary, because once Bunge Tower is ready, then again you'll move again from there to, why don't you just go straight so that this other person just stays in the Continental House until he or she moves to? Common sense is not always common. Now let us go to how things happen. I'm grateful to Dagoretti South constituency, where I have been a member of the tender board in the past. As I talk now, I'm not a member of the tender board. There are some things that I participated in the construction, but when Mheshimiwa constructed 6 secondary schools, yes, 6 secondary schools from ground, schools that were never there, he just took fields and made secondary schools. By then, I was no longer a member of the tender board. What happens, both in my knowledge as an intelligence officer and a member of the board, is that usually you are told that tenders will be given to the lowest bidder. But then again, they say that the tender board, is not binded by the lowest bidder. Yes, if you're the lowest bidder, you win the tender, but it is not automatic. But what I've seen through experience, it's almost always that if you're the lowest bidder, you win the tender. Now hapa ndio kuna kizungumkuti, hapa ndio kuna kizungumkuti. First of all, generally it is supposed to be by law. When you want to start something, first of all the government comes, like let us say Bunge Towers. The government comes with experts, they do their own evaluation. And when they do their own evaluation, they say that for such and such a tender, we have recommended such and such an expenditure. That is why even if they are selling their vehicles, there is usually a reserve price. You cannot go there and buy a vehicle, a government vehicle, at 500 shilling. They come and place there a reserve price so that if no tender offer is given of that amount, then that one is retendered. Same to building houses. If the government is building Bunge Towers, they should have I'm sure they have done it. They should come up and they come up with an estimate and say that Bunge Towers can cost, let's say, 6 billion. So when they say Bunge Towers can cost 6 billion, anybody who tenders below that 6 billion is disqualified. That is why they write and say they are not bound by the lowest tender. But what happens, and in one or two occasions, this is what happens. Someone tenders a blank. Yes, a blank tender. So that when they close the tender and they open, a lot of people there, more than one, are already been briefed. So they look at all the tenders and they find that a certain tender is the lowest. So they call their person, he fills in lower than what the lowest has done. By lower than, it means even if it is 100 shillings lower than what the other person has done. So you win a tender. Let's say Bunge Towers, the reserve quotation is 6 billion. But here comes somebody with a 5 billion quotation. He is given. Now let us stop there. During my O-level, Form 1 to Form 4, I did commerce. During my A-level, Form 5 and 6, I did economics. I know about tendering even from school. But something that does not make sense to me, China have got companies. These companies, do not mistake them to be like Bayusuf. Those who know Bayusuf transporters will tell you that from Mombasa, there are about 4 different companies, each are called Bayusuf. There is one that is called, let us say, Ahmed Bayusuf. The second, Ahmed Bayusuf and Sons. There is another one called Bashir Bayusuf and Sons. So on and so on and so on. They are around 4. You'll just see them Bayusuf and Sons, you'll think it is one company. And whenever they look for tender, they fight each other viciously, more than how other people can fight other people. That is a family businesses, they are siblings, but when they come to business, they are the worst rivals. That one happens. But when it comes to Chinese, China is a communist country. Nobody has a company. All companies belong to the Chinese government. So in Kenya, we have 4 or so companies. They are 100% owned. The shareholding are 100% by China country, China Republic or something like that. They fully own those companies. But then these fellows, wanashambulianaga atafadhali kina Bayusuf. As I told you, Bayusuf A and Bayusuf B are siblings. In fact, wanafatana. This is the immediate elder brother to this one. And vice versa. This is the immediate younger brother to this one. And they do the same business. Lakini rivalism in transport business ni ile kali. He would even rather another person wins that tender, but not his own brother. That one, okay, we understand, although we don't encourage. But China, you find China Bridge and China what, all companies are 100% owned, shareholding by Chinese government. But the rivalism that they have, it's so much. They go to different countries and they even do what? They even bribe and whatever. And it's so vicious that you'd think. And then there is the other aspect, which I've just reminded myself about that Chinese supervisor who was trying to, I don't know which building, was trying to throw an African worker over the, I think everybody has seen that. Chinese, to save money, they go to their prisons. It's just like Inspector Wajakoya was suggesting that we have bang farm in Mandera or snake farm in Lodwa. Now those things, somebody who has been jailed for long is told you'll be a farm worker there for 10 years. That is what they do. And that is, I know that because the first project Chinese did in Kenya was Webuye District Hospital. It's now Webuye Level 5. Those are prisoners who are brought, and I think the government should pursue that. You don't bring criminals here to come and harass Kenyans. Kenyans whom have not even gone to baraza, hawajawahi pelekwa kwa baraza ya nyumba kumi, Dikuru, Mukasa, sub area. And then you take criminals to be in charge of them. Now back to that building. Let's say they have won the contract for 5 billion. They start work. The only work they have to start is 10%, and then call the tender board. And when they call the tender board, you see the other groups which are tendered. There is a group that had tendered, let's say Kwatenge and Kwatenge Company Constructions. We tendered 7.5 billion, which is slightly more than the 7 that was quoted. We were disqualified. I'm only giving an example. I don't have a construction company. Then from there, everybody who had tendered has gone. They are now remaining the tender board and the construction company. Then the construction company says that new things have come up. There is, there are two meetings. Yeah, there are 2 meetings or more. The informal one, the formal one is 1, but the informal may be 1 or more, because the informal, if I'm on the board of the tender board, I may need to go and consult. You see, I go and consult somebody. He says, okay, wakiwa wameongeza, then yangu itakuwa ngapi hapo, whatever. So there is 1 or more informal. There is 1 or more informal meeting, but the formal one will be you go in there and give reasons, and you are preaching to the converted. You go and give reasons why the tender should move from 5 billion to 8 billion. Then it goes there twice or thrice, and then it ends up at 9 billion. Imagine it is 9 billion, okay, I'm talking of a higher figure. It is that higher figure, and the construction has not ended. That is, if the construction had ended, all MPs would have gone to the new building. But the construction has not ended, so by the time it ends up, it will even be more. And some people will be smiling all the way to the bank. Just like I'll be smiling all the way if you fill in that till number. Thank you.